What's up, everybody? I'm Katie.
And I'm Morgan.
And this is For Your Misinformation, a podcast dedicated to empowering women to be more politically engaged so we can act in our own best interests.
Let us break down the problem and tell you what we're doing and what you can do to help solve it.
Hi, Morgan.
Hey, Katie.
What's up?
We are getting so close to the election. I don't even know if anything feels real anymore.
No.
How are you doing?
I'm really anxious, and I'm trying to control that as well as I can. If you're listening to this the day it comes out, the election ends tomorrow. Also, our phone bank with Andrea Chalupa and Sarah Kendzior will be over, so our lives will have peaked.
This is true.
We hope you joined us. And I guess, it's become clear to me since we last recorded. Also, we wrote this episode during commercial breaks during The Bachelor. So that's how we kept saying. Also, oh my God, everybody on this season sucks.
Yeah, it's true. You know what, everyone? Do what you need to do to keep your sanity right now. I mean, and always, but especially right now. It's true.
Yeah, my doctor was like, so how's your anxiety? I tried to refill my Xanax, and she was like, your insurance won't let you do that until November 6th. And I was like, the election is before that. So anyway, she was like, does your anxiety, is it uncontrolled? And I was like, yes. We got to figure out something else if that's not an option. But so, yeah, I don't know. I'm anxious, whatever. I'm anxious because I feel like between the last time we talked and now, before it was okay, we'll just avoid super spreader events best as we can and we'll be okay. And now it's oh shit, COVID cases are really spiking and Trump is hosting super spreader events all over. They're little tiny bombs all over the country that he's setting off.
Yeah, there's one, I think this weekend in my city.
Oh,
right
no.
Away. Cannot wait.
And
oh, wait, you know what?
It's
Mike Pence. So even better.
How does he... Wait, okay. So you know how everybody on his staff has COVID?
Yeah.
I feel like if he doesn't get COVID, that's confirmation that he's a lizard people, right? Because how could he not?
I mean, or they could just not tell us.
Yes. Okay. So that's true too. But if they don't tell us, let's go with the lizard people theory, because at least then we'll have something fun to hold on to.
Yeah. I can get behind that.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other scary thing that we've come to realize between last time and now, and we should have assumed this. I don't know why we didn't. Why would we ever give Mitch McConnell and Republican leadership the benefit of the doubt? But it's no matter what happens, they're gonna Trump is gonna try to declare victory on election night.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yep. No matter what.
That's very scary to me, obviously. So we have been really looking into what happens then. What happens if there's a contested election or something like that. And it gets really scary really fast. And part of this episode was recommended by Rachel in Colorado. But she recommended Radiolab's episode, What If? And also Vice has a really good article about whether America is already in a civil war. And spoiler, it sounds like yes. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess let's just get into it. We've seen for a while now that these checks and balances are not really doing a ton of checking or balancing. So let's talk about the potential scenarios that could play out, and pretty quickly it seems after the election, because the most important thing about fascists is to not let them get into power, because once they have it, they hold on real tight. So this is our last real big chance to do it. Oh my God. All right. And you can still phone bank. You can still phone bank with me today if you want to. and tomorrow. So reach out to me, however, and I will put the link to those Planned Parenthood phone banks in our bio. We don't care that Susan Collins voted against Amy Coney Barrett. Like, she's still trash and she's still got to go.
Yeah,
she voted
it's like too
to
late
confirm
for
Kavanaugh.
her.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
After Kavanaugh, it's too late. It's too late to redeem yourself.
Absolutely.
We're sorry, Susan Collins.
Yeah.
But also, we're not sorry.
No. We're not. You don't get, no.
Yep.
So here's like some of those scenarios. We hope we're wrong. I think we're not, because people are really scared and fear makes people do like unpredictable shit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also, another point I wanted to make really quick is that like words matter. What the Republicans just did was court packing. Mm-hmm. Like, they are choosing, just people are framing this all wrong. I went to the physical therapist the other day, and somebody was talking about how they were closing down restaurants and how it's like, well, this one restaurant's disobeying that order, but like I get it. Like, they how else are they going to make money? And it's like, our government has put them in an impossible place. Like, if our government cared about its like citizens, it would provide relief so that those businesses, like, the House passed a bill.
If they cared, we would have had COVID relief instead of having a Supreme Court justice approve.
Right.
Like, they would have been focusing on that.
Right.
And I mean, and I don't know about anybody else, but in my job, I often have to focus on more than one thing at a time. So I don't know if that makes me qualified for Mitch McConnell's job, but at the very least, it makes me, a person that is earning their paycheck.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. He's getting paid to do almost nothing except for pack the courts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what we need to do, or what Joe Biden would need to do if he were to pull off an election win, is rebalance the courts. Everybody needs to wake up. Our courts right now are not fair and balanced. Like, one political party is totally divorced from the idea of democracy, and they are not playing by the rules in a desperate attempt to hold on to power. That's all that it is. Like, it's very plain.
Even like Amy Coney Barrett, the person who just got confirmed just a matter of years ago, publicly said that it was too close to the election to be approving Merrick Garland. And that was in like February.
They're hypocrites.
It's so hypocritical. And, when we're talking about court packing, don't forget Trump has approved literally so many judges during the last like 4 years. Literally a quarter, 1/4 of all federal judges are Trump appointees.
Yeah.
That is so many. Like, he has approved more than any other president in the same amount of time. It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. It is a direct attempt to...
Let's reframe that even, like, just a little bit. Like, he's an illegitimately elected president, or at the very least, we haven't investigated it enough. But like, where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's just a shit ton of smoke, and like, we know better than to, like, there's just far too much evidence. But Reality Winner proved it a really long time ago, and she's been in prison ever since.
Yeah.
So, like, the judiciary is not... that's not really the point I was trying to make. I guess just that, like...
It's just, there's irreparable damage in our courts right now.
Yeah.
Unless we elect Joe Biden and also flip the Senate and actually get something done to rebalance the courts. Because otherwise, the damage done to our democracy is going to end up being beyond repair.
Yeah. Okay, I remember what I was going to say. Just that, like, we're not sure that he was, like, a democratically elected, a fairly elected leader. We're actually pretty sure that he was not. So what does it mean that a shit ton of the judges were appointed by somebody who doesn't give a shit about democracy? Or even, like, America. Like, at least other, like, fascists had like loyalty to their country. Like, he doesn't even give a shit. So I don't know. That's all. It's just that like, oh, a third of our Supreme Court was nominated by a guy who was picked by Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
To be like, that's not ideal. So I feel like people still think that the courts are fair and balanced and unbiased, and they're so not. They're so not. So everybody be aware of that. And be aware that like our Republican Party much more closely resembles like Turkey or India or like, I don't know, other authoritarian states, Brazil. And yeah, we just have to frame it the right way. And I don't know how to be more plain about it. Like, the Supreme Court is no longer legitimate. Donald Trump has appointed a third of it. Eventually, we're going to have to talk about like social media and disinformation on social media, but I think that's probably for another day. But yeah, so the fact of the matter is, for the last 4 years, we've seen that Mitch McConnell and the rest of the Republicans, they don't have any morals or values, and that they are cool with pushing boundaries. And because so much of the way that we operate is based on norms and not laws, they are getting real far. Like, if you don't have any like shame, or you can get away with so much, and it's appalling. And people keep thinking like, oh, someone's going to do something. Someone's going to do something. And like, if someone was going to do something, like Robert Mueller would have done something. Like, there are enough people that are getting in the way. Like, I don't know. It's alarming. It's very alarming.
Yeah, it really is. And I guess even myself, a few years ago, when I heard people like Sarah Kendzior and Andrea Chalupa talking about like authoritarianism and fascism, and like the infiltration of the Russian mafia into our democracy, I was like, I mean, I think that might be a little extreme. And now I'm like, oh fuck.
Right.
Yeah, but also like anyone who has ever dated an unstable person, whether they're a narcissist or mentally ill, or just an unstable person because they're a white man who's never been told no, is probably very unsurprised by all of this, when you look at it at all with any sort of objectivity. And relatively well adjusted to what's happening as well.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm freaked out, but I'm also like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's knowing what I know, this all checks out.
Yeah, like, it's better to set appropriate expectations. So yes, I think that like anybody who's dated a narcissist, like, this is actually that's actually useful, because they see clearly like what's going on. Yeah, and it's just time and time again. But yes, okay, so all the experts say like, nope, we can't really count on, like, people just are like vague and generalize, and they're like, oh, like the military would never let Trump like stay in office. And it's like, who do you think is the commander-in-chief of the military? Like, the military is not going to step in. Like, okay, so go listen to that Radiolab episode called What If, but they get all the people in the room in the same, well, I think it's a Zoom room because it's during COVID, but they get them together to talk about like what could happen, and it goes south really, really quickly. So they've already laid the groundwork to do this. This is the scariest part to me, is that like, of course they're gonna like assume their worst intentions, and like, of course that's what they're gonna do. So they've already laid the groundwork and like signaled the intention of declaring victory on election night, and then contesting like ballots that arrive late, or maybe mail-in ballots or provisional ballots or whatever. Send that up to the Supreme Court, which they just packed, and have it go their way. Have Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and John Roberts, who all ruled in favor of Bush over Gore in Florida in 2000. And like, you got yourself a stolen election. You did it.
Yeah. Like, it's so obvious, really. And it's also like it's not really like illegal.
Right. Yeah.
It should be. Right. It should be illegal. It's at the least immoral, and there'll be some people, I'm sure, just outraged. But that doesn't do anything. Like, your outrage is way too late, folks.
Well, yeah, but although like we're happy to have you. Like,
oh my gosh. Oh yeah. No. When I say that, I mean like the people who are in the Senate who haven't done anything, and in the
Dianne
event
Feinstein.
of all of this going down, suddenly even, being like, really
Nancy
outraged.
Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, like
really?
if they like appropriately saw this threat, then we wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of like being mad and annoyed, well, when are we not? When we were looking at like the laws versus the norms and like what might happen, like the more I learn about our Constitution, the more I just feel like the founding fathers, and like people are going to be so pissed about this because people are so into the founding fathers, but I just see it as a group of toddlers who created a game and wrote all the rules for it. And you know how like kids are like really specific about silly things, but like leave out like really important rules, like, or just like, I don't know. So they focused on stuff like where people need to sit if there's a contested election. Like Mike Pence would sit in Nancy Pelosi's chair, but it doesn't say who would count the votes. Like, it's just, I don't know. Some of it's like really specific. Some of it's like super important and just got like left out. Like what happens if the president refuses to leave office? It doesn't say, because they didn't think that the entire Republican Party would be complicit.
Right. They didn't think really though. Like there's just so many things that they didn't think of. And I believe also it didn't occur to them that like a couple hundred years later, there would be people who like idolize them to the point of like godlike figures, right? Yeah. Like they knew obviously they were going to be very historical people, but I don't think it probably occurred to them that someday there were going to be people who decided they knew exactly what their intentions were and that we could not possibly change anything that was written as it was in, the 18th century, because they were these, geniuses or whatever.
Right. Like people have gotten smarter since then.
Right. Like they have. And it's just.
So yeah, it's old. Our Constitution is stupid and old. We should update it. Even though, and it's especially stupid because our country is young. So like, why have we not figured this out?
Our country is younger than so many other countries that are at least like economically where we were at or whatever, considered like world superpowers. So we're younger, but our Constitution is older. And that's just like one more thing that doesn't make fucking sense. Like make it make sense, people. Like also, I'm pretty sure that in the musical Hamilton, Aaron Burr says something about all the contradictions that are in the Constitution.
And then Alexander Hamilton says, Aaron Burr says it's full of contradictions. And Alexander Hamilton says, so is independence.
And I'm like, like you're both right. I mean, obviously, like historically, the conversation didn't go this way. However, like this type of conversation probably did happen. Yes. And it's like, okay, you're both right. Independence is full of contradictions. The Constitution's full of contradictions. Somebody's got to do something about it.
Yeah, do your best.
And they did their best and thought they were passing the torch to folks who would also do their best, which would then, be done for the betterment on the behalf of the people of this great nation. Right. And it wasn't. I mean, seriously. Mike Pence could count the votes in the event of a contested election.
That he's running in
the election could be the person that gets to count the votes.
Right.
My high school homecoming court didn't get to count the votes. Like I was our student body president, but I didn't get to count the votes because I was on the slips of paper that people threw into the hat. Like
that makes sense.
And I went to a podunk little high school. Mm-hmm. What the fuck, Washington, D.C.? Get your shit together.
So it just feels like now there's like women and like people of color in Congress, and they're like, hey, some of these rules are super unfair. And there's like modern day toddlers like Jim Jordan and Doug Collins and
God,
whatever who are
totally
like, no, the stock market. Like they just are like, they're like, no, it's not unfair. Like systemic racism doesn't exist. And it's just like, oh my God, I can't wait for you to just die. Like you're obviously not going to learn anything.
Right. And then there's people like Amy Coney Barrett who are like constitutional originalists or whatever she calls herself. Excuse me, ma'am. You're a woman. You're not even in the Constitution.
Yep.
What are you talking about? You are an originalist who believes in the way it was originally written to be interpreted. Yeah. What the fuck? You're not even in it.
Yeah.
Like, no. You wouldn't be allowed to be in the position that you're in if we only went off of how the Constitution was written originally. Yep. It's so stupid.
It's so stupid.
I hate throwing out the word stupid. I do. I feel a little ableist every time I do, but I just, like, right now I'm so angry. I can't think of, like, more eloquent speech, so I'm going to call synonyms. It stupid.
Yeah. So I think it's clear that, like, whatever the outcome on election night or whatever it appears to be on election week is that Trump and his team are going to try to game the system and try to confuse people and work the refs. And they figured out that the refs are the courts. So that's why they confirmed Amy Coney Barrett. Yeah. And I don't know. He's already like sowing doubt. Like,
right.
Mail-in elections are safe.
Right? Just like in 2016. They sow doubt so that if they lose, they're like, well, it was rigged. And then everybody's like, oh my gosh, it was rigged. They've been warning us about this. And like, you fucking idiots. They're the ones that made it corrupt.
Yeah. So, like, it appears like, okay, so you know how especially, and I'm sorry, but how Republican governors have like refused to do anything about COVID. Like no mask mandates, whatever. Yes, you know too well. I'm sorry. So they'll do the same thing. Like Republican governors who feel loyal to Trump will do the same thing to ensure, like they'll refuse to do anything to ensure fair vote counting. Like we live in we aspire to be a democracy, like a representative democracy. And in a representative democracy, like one person gets one vote. Like we want everybody's votes to be counted. Why would you not want that?
Because you don't think the people will make the decision you want them to.
Exactly. They're trying to hold on to power and they can't. Oh,
because
Jasper
just like the constitutional originalists who wrote the fucking thing, we can't trust those like 3/5 of people to make a good decision, so they don't get to count.
Yeah.
I'm being sarcastic for anybody who like randomly tuning in the middle of this episode or something. Just want to clarify.
So some sketchy stuff to look out for is if states, like particularly swing states, they could send, I mean, okay, it's not necessarily sketchy. Like it depends on what happens, but like this is like a potential crazy thing that could happen. But yeah, so states could send alternate sets of electors. So we don't actually, I don't feel like explaining the Electoral College or like we vote for people who are gonna vote for president. And okay, it sounds extreme, but like Mitch McConnell sucks and he would definitely do it. He would definitely like, why would he not? He hasn't faced consequences from anything so far. So like, why would he? But there were actually some faithless electors in 2016. It just didn't sway anything, which like I didn't realize.
I didn't either. I had no idea about the faithless electors and that was a thing that happened in 2016. I was floored when I learned about it, like just floored. And it made me realize just how fragile our democracy is. And that doesn't mean that there's no hope. We wouldn't be here still talking if there was no hope. We would be in Canada. It does mean, however, that like we have to be aware and we have to be informed, and we have to look to our local elections, and we have to look to the Senate in 2022. I know it seems way too early to be talking about that already, but as soon as we have a chance to catch our breath after
Knock
this
on something right
election,
now.
I know. Like, we have to get there, because whether we flip the Senate or not, like tomorrow, if you're listening to this the day it comes out, like there are a bunch more seats up for grabs in 2 years, and it's so important that in the event that Trump is installed as president for a second term, yes, I said installed, not elected, that we impeach him again, and that this time we remove him.
Right.
And we cannot do that without flipping the Senate.
Exactly, because every single Republican is complicit. Even Mitt Romney, the moral compass of the Republican Party, he admitted that he didn't vote for Trump, but he won't admit whether he voted for Biden or not.
He probably wrote in himself.
He probably wrote in Ronald Reagan.
Okay, also, like, when the moral compass of your political party is a man who strapped his dog to the roof of a vehicle, there's a problem.
I'll never miss an opportunity to talk about this. Family dog strapped to the roof of their car on a cross-country trip. The dog shit itself. Of course it did. You're going like thousands. Sorry. You're going fast on a highway, and you're a dog in a crate, and you're on the roof of a car. That's terrifying. So he hosed the dog down because it shit itself. And then he put it back on the roof of the car and drove the rest of the way. Like monster.
Like, that's a monster. Because see, that's not even like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that dogs can't eat onion. I gave my dog a piece of onion and now it's sick, or whatever. Like, that's not even just like a mistake, like an, oh my gosh, I didn't know they could have this kind of thing. Like, it's not an ignorance, it's not a stupidity, it's cruelty.
It's a lack of empathy.
And you're not allowed to be a good person if you do that.
Why couldn't he sit on somebody's lap? It's a dog. That's my dream, is cross country with a dog in my lap.
Look, I wouldn't put like a feral raccoon in a cage on the roof of a vehicle. Right. Like, it's yeah. Anyway,
so it could come down to the House deciding to count one set of electors and the Senate deciding to count another, because the House could like recognize the ones sent by Democratic governors, and the Senate, because they're controlled by Republicans, could choose to recognize the ones sent by Republican governors. And there's no roadmap or game plan in the Constitution for what happens then.
That's just insane.
I know. It's the answer is probably, like you said, that Mike Pence might break the tie, but like that in an election that he's running in, which seems like cool and fair and good and everything's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Everything's fine. We're gonna be fine.
Yeah. So I don't know. People think it can't happen here, but like, of course it can happen here.
Absolutely.
The Trump campaign on a state and national level is already discussing contingency plans to bypass election results and to appoint loyal electors in battleground states. They're already talking about it. So it's not the election hasn't even happened yet, and they're already talking about how to sway it their direction, like it's a reality TV show and not people's real lives. It's insane.
Yeah. And something that I want to mention too is, like, obviously this is something the Democrats could do as well, right? If the tables were turned. And I want to live in an America where this just straight up like doesn't happen, where there are actual like plans for how to deal with things, and where it's just not like okay for election results to just be bypassed and mean nothing. Like, how about we just fix the system that is like, this is fine.
Yeah.
Like, let's do that so that it doesn't matter Senate or House or who's the president, that we just like have things actually make sense. And
we have laws instead of norms.
Yeah.
Ideally.
That's you know, generally what you want.
Yeah. And like everybody has to get very involved because nobody else is going to come save us. I know we say it like every episode, but like the media is not going to, the judiciary is not going to, like the judges have been infiltrated. Like the attorney general, Bill Barr, he's corrupt. We called for him to be impeached a long ass time. He should have been impeached during like the 80s, honestly. Every Republican in Congress is a coward, including Mitt Romney. Like, social media is totally failing to meet this moment. Like they're trying, it's like they squeezed all the toothpaste out of the tube and now they're trying to put all the toothpaste back in the tube, and the toothpaste is QAnon. And it won't go back.
Like, oh, here, we'll put up this little voting information thing.
Right.
Okay.
Or like they won't put up any more political ads between now and the election. But the Trump team already submitted an ad that like makes it look like Trump won re-election. And so like they did that to game the system. Like they're trying to go around Facebook's rules, or Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Actually, I think Twitter banned all political content. But yeah. So anyway, Facebook is like doing the bare minimum, or trying to do the bare minimum to, I don't know, stop fucking up democracy. I don't know. They're so bad at it. And yeah, and like local journalism is nearly gone too. So there's just like not a lot of checks and balances left, and people are like, I don't know. I don't think they realize like how close we are to a tipping point. But yeah, so I don't know. There's I guess the other thing that I wanted to talk about was like to set expectations for after the election, because we're kind of are like the stage is set for large scale political violence, and people who are experts in that subject agree, and they do say that like their opinions are colored by that, but it's like, yeah, dude, you're the expert. Like that's why you see it coming. It's because it's a real threat. Some things that like make America particularly vulnerable to that is it's huge. Like we're widely dispersed all over the place. There's a shit ton of guns, so much ammunition, and it like shot up since the pandemic started. There's a ton of like polarity. What is it called?
Yeah. Things are just really polarized.
Yeah. And then like social media, I cannot wait to do an episode about social media and like what it's doing without realizing, like, very scary. There's like conspiracy theories that are fueled by it, like really effectively, that I don't know. So there's a lot of stuff to be worried about, but the CIA basically warns about an incipient insurgency, which is a period of sustained and distributed conflict, which will probably, like, this is the scary part. It's like, wait, that's happening. Like, that's happening in Philadelphia as we're speaking. Mm-hmm. It happened in Ferguson a really long time ago, like 2014, something like that. Portland, Baltimore, like it's everywhere. So that's already happening. It'll probably go back and forth between groups who want to like show force or like make a statement, which sounds a lot like terrorism to me. And it'll be more like performative. Like nobody's actually trying to like take over, I don't know, a block of the city or whatever. Like that did happen in like Colombia, where like guerrilla militants like really did intend to take over the country. Like I don't think that's anybody's intention here, but there will absolutely be like identity group, like white identity mostly groups.
Okay, white people. Our feminism is performative. Our activism is performative. Our allyship is performative. And now even our terrorism is performative.
Yeah.
Can we just all calm down?
Yeah, I think we
should
ban so white people until we figure out what's going on.
Yeah. The whites are canceled.
Yeah. But between like COVID and that making like poverty and unemployment worse, then there's like the racial conflict, racial unrest that's going on. Basically, like the gun is loaded and we're waiting for something to pull the trigger. Like something's got to spark it, and the election seems like it could be a really good opportunity for that to happen. And then there's basically like 3 distinct factions that at least 2 are armed. So it's like right-wing law enforcement, and then like the left, which is like Black Lives Matter protesters, like people who care about equity. You know, the people that Trump thinks are the bad guys.
Yeah.
We're waiting for something to pull the trigger, or if you want to think about it, like a gas stove has been on and like something's going to spark it. We don't know what it is, but like whenever it happens, like everything's like primed and ready for that to be the thing that happens. So I don't know. It seems to me like we're already in essentially a civil war that will probably get a little bit worse. This is crazy. Ugh. But yeah, I don't know. I keep thinking about how like in other states, like if we lived in New Zealand or if we lived in Austria or like South Korea or functioning democracy. Well, I don't know. Sorry. I don't know that all of those are what governments are hard. But anyway, like they managed to keep their citizens safe or much safer from this threat than we did.
Yeah.
And I obviously like this is a public health threat. Gun violence is a public health threat, but it's like, oh yeah, like that's another thing that they just fail to keep us safe from and don't even try. And again, like one party is trying to do something about it. Like there's gun sense candidates running like Sarah Gideon, like, ugh. And one party is like ignoring the problem and would rather look the other way. Bananas. Totally bananas. All right. That was all I wanted to say about that.
Well, let's talk about some actions because we didn't do that at the top.
Oh, yeah. And then there will also be an interview with Megan, who will be talking about Protect the Results, which is a way for everybody to mobilize in case Trump does try to steal the election, which I think everybody should be ready to mobilize on November 4th as like a show of we're not going to put up with that. Like we see you. Like, we see what you're doing and you can't do that. So, yeah. So that interview, that'll probably come out tomorrow. All right. Yes. Actions. Do you want to go first?
Sure. So when this comes out, we will have already done our super awesome fascism or treat phone bank. But even if it's your first time ever, still come phone bank with us. There are election day phone banks. And I mean, even after this election is over, there's still going to be plenty of opportunities to volunteer and do stuff. So yeah, like keep paying attention. In fact, your voice might be needed even more after November 3rd.
I will be phone banking for Sarah Gideon on Monday and Tuesday of this week. You're probably free for like a 2-hour chunk in there. You should join me. Come join me on Monday or Tuesday. You can contact me lots of different ways, but the FYMIpod@gmail.com is, go straight to my inbox. I guess those are really the actions that I'm focusing on like this week. What else is there? I mean, and then like Protect the Results on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited to hear more about it.
Yeah, me too. And I got connected to Megan through another Indivisible contact, which again, I'm just going to keep telling you guys, like, join your local Indivisible group. You'll meet cool people who care about the same things that you do.
And we all need those kinds of people in our lives right now, even if you don't actually get to meet them face to face until like, I don't know, 2024. We all need people in our lives like that. Should we talk about just some fun little things that are making us happy and bringing us joy? Also, I have a petty complaint this week because when do I not?
Yes, I want to hear all of that.
Okay. Well, my petty complaint is I mean, spiders, because it's fall and it's cold, they want to come inside and all of that. But specifically this one spider who today was in my hair, which is my worst nightmare. Actually, when I was a little kid, I loved bugs and spiders. I thought they were so cool. And then I got traumatized by finding a very large spider in my hair when I was in the bathtub. And after that, they became my biggest fear. And today I found a spider in my hair. Probably, was trying to get into my house and came in and landed on my head in the doorway or something. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Found the spider in my hair. And that is my complaint. However, the second half of the complaint is the fact that one of my worst fears, finding a spider in my hair, happened. And due to the sheer exhaustion of all the other fears that 2020 has brought with pandemics and illness and fascism, etc., etc., I wasn't even phased. My huge fear of a spider in my hair, and I just found it, squished it in my hand, and then wiped it off on my pants and was like
fascism is looming.
A spider in my hair. Not that big of a deal when pretty soon I could be a handmaid.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. But I'm glad that you brought that up. Amy Coney Barrett is not a handmaid. She's one of the wives. She's a Serena.
Yeah,
she's the one that's she's doing the oppressing. So let's be clear. I think, okay, my positive thing is so obviously I talked about how Amy Coney Barrett is bad news for anybody who cares about other people's rights or their own rights. So my insurance is through the Affordable Care Act. They pay for birth control. An IUD is $1,000 or something like that. But it's also free. It's also birth control for 6 years. So I went in, it was a new doctor. I picked her because I picked a woman and her last name was Latina, and so I was like, she's probably cool, and she was awesome. I love her so much. I have not had an OBGYN that I really, you know what, this is probably too much information. I don't like this. I don't know, it's kind of important. I don't know.
It's okay to be vulnerable.
You're right. Okay. But anyway, so she was like, your IUD doesn't expire for 6 more months. And I was like, yeah, but Amy Coney Barrett's going to get confirmed today. And she was like, yep, got it. Say no more. I'm not going to put that in your chart. We'll take this one out today and we will plan to get that one, your new one in. But she also laughed at my jokes, which obviously endears people to me. But did I tell you this? I can't remember if I told you this, but she took it out, let me look at it, and then we did the Marie Kondo thing where we thanked it for its service and then not donated it, threw it away.
I love it.
It was amazing.
I might have to figure out if she's in network with my health insurance. So
you have to move to Chicago. You would thrive here.
I think I would do great. Although I'd have to live way out in the suburbs because I love a cornfield so much. I don't think I've ever lived more than a mile away from a cornfield in my entire life. That even might be a bit of a stretch. I think that's at the farthest I've ever lived from a cornfield is a mile.
There's plenty of cornfields here. We can find you a happy medium.
Okay,
I promise.
Yeah, because if I'm not near a cornfield, I don't know what might happen to me.
Yeah.
We don't want to find out. We don't know.
All right. Well, it's been 50 minutes. Are you ready to wrap up?
Yep.
Okay. Ugh, there's so much. Okay. So if you haven't voted yet, go turn in your ballot. Go turn it in. Don't put it in the mail.
And make sure everyone else that you know is also going to turn in their ballot.
Yes. If you live in Illinois, you can drop it off at any early voting location or those official drop boxes.
Pack some snacks, no matter how long you have to stand in line if you're voting in person.
Yeah. If you're in line by the time the polls close, you get to vote.
Yep. Snacks, water, have your phone charged, download a couple games, especially maybe that heads up game because you can play it with the other people in line.
Oh, that's fun.
Right?
And don't forget about your down ballot races and your judges because they're important.
They are important.
All right. Well, we hope you guys have a good week. Try and stay calm and, I don't know, be as optimistic as possible. Expect the worst.
Do whatever you got to do to take care of yourself, you know?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, we'll talk to you guys next week. And in the meantime, I guess stay sexy and
protect democracy.
Yes, please vote out the fascists. Who knows? The next time we record an episode, who knows? Who knows? The world will be so much different.
Dude, that's so weird. Yeah, that's true. Or we could still be waiting on results.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we probably will be, but I think either way, the world will be really much shittier this time next week.
The world will be different this time
next week. Much more stressful.
Week.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you guys on Monday, no matter how stressful it is.
Yeah, we love you no matter what.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for listening to For Your Misinformation. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. And if you like it, give us a rating and a review. It helps us find more listeners, and the more of us there are, the better.
And make sure you're following along on Instagram and Twitter at FYMI Pod.
Shout out to Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, Hope Dye for the podcast art, and Ben Schlofelt for the audio production.
We come out with new episodes every Monday.
For Your Misinformation is part of the Demcast family of podcasts.